Good morning, everyone. Glad to have you online this morning. I trust that you're having a great weekend. Beautiful, beautiful weather here in Willoughby, and there's some construction that's going on outside, so if you hear a little bit of background noise, that's what's going on. It's great to have you online at our service here this morning. There's a couple of things I want to tell you about this morning before we get into our worship time. First of all, we are in this series called On the Road to Find Out. And we've been encouraging you to take the Enneagram test, and all you really do is need to put a search in Google, and you'll find free tests to take to see kind of where your personality type leans. And so today, I trust that you'll understand that it's important for all of us to at least kind of have a sense of what our strengths and our weaknesses are. Today, we're going to be talking about the type 4 personality, the individualist, or also called the romantic. So that should be interesting. Also, I want to highlight, if you are getting our worship liturgy, you are getting these announcements written in front of you. And if you do not get our weekly worship liturgy, please send me an email, larry.posa@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to put you on that list so that you're able to follow along in the service. The announcement that we have was such that we were looking to open up next week to invite people who are comfortable to come in and join us for the service. We will continue our online services, but I was just talking to Corey. This past week we've seen a spike again to levels that we haven't seen all the way back to May. So we're going to put this on hold. We have a board meeting tomorrow night, and I will send you out an email. It looks as though we're going to have to wait and see on this type of thing. It doesn't make sense that we shut down so many months ago with a certain level, and then we're at that level, and now we're opening it up, right? So we'll get back to you this week, but we're going to tentatively put that on hold until further notice. I want to tell you about an opportunity that I learned about yesterday. PFLAG, Parents and Friends of Lesbian and Gays Support Group, is celebrating a milestone anniversary, and the Cleveland chapter is going to be highlighted tomorrow on WVIZ 90.3 FM at 9 a.m. 90.3 FM at 9 a.m. And some of the leaders of the downtown PFLAG asked me if I would call in and tell my story a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to get in or not, but if you're interested in that, dial into 90.3 FM at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and you can listen to what PFLAG has done for people in the greater Cleveland area. It has played an important role in my life and in Estee's life as we made certain changes in our own viewpoint regarding being open and accepting and welcoming and all those other adjectives. So I trust that you will learn about that and become more dialed in to what we're all about as a church, being a welcoming and open community to help people of all different types of sexual preferences and orientations. So today I'd like for us to begin with a call to worship. We're going to talk a little bit about God as an artist, because what we're going to find in the type 4 personality is there is a lot of creativity in this personality type. And so I went back to the book of Genesis, and I was reminded of how we are created in God's image. So Genesis 1:27 says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them." That's Genesis 1:27. Then the psalmist says in Psalm 139, verses 13 and 14, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well." And I guess what we can take away from this is you are the proof that God is an artist. You became a canvas for him to paint images of grace and glory upon. You became a blank page for him to write sonnets of peace and of love, and he named you worthy. You became a stone slab which God is now chipping away at, creating in you a new heart and shaping you into who you were always meant to be, that is, his child. Pablo Picasso once said, "Every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once we grow up." So let's remember that God gave to us grace through his Son, Jesus Christ. Lord, be with us during this time of worship this morning and grant to us your Spirit. Lift us up, encourage us, and help to stir within us the creativity that you placed in us as image bearers of the living God. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. This morning, our scripture reading comes out of the book of 1 Samuel, and I've selected a few different verses that kind of give just an overview of this first king of Israel. 1 Samuel 9:15 through 17 says, "Now the day before Saul came, the Lord had revealed this to Samuel. About this time tomorrow, I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin. Anoint him ruler over my people, Israel. He will deliver them from the hand of the Philistines. I have looked on my people, for their cry has reached me. When Samuel caught sight of Saul, the Lord said to him, This is the man I spoke to you about. He will govern my people. Chapter 9, verse 21. But Saul answers to Samuel, But am I not a Benjamite from the smallest tribe of Israel? And is not my clan the least of all the clans of the tribe of Benjamin? Why do you say such a thing to me? Skipping a few verses, chapter 10, verse 1. Then Samuel took a flask of olive oil and poured it on Saul's head and kissed him, saying, Has not the Lord anointed you ruler over this inheritance? A few verses later, it says, The Spirit of the Lord will come powerfully upon you, and you will prophesy with them, and you will be changed into a different person. Once these signs are fulfilled, do whatever your hand finds to do, for God is with you. Go down ahead of me to Gilgal. I will surely come down to you to sacrifice burnt offerings and fellowship offerings, but you must wait 7 days until I come to you, and then I will tell you what you are to do. May God add a blessing to the reading of his word. Thank you, Corey. There's just Corey and I here today, and I realized that the instrument was kind of overriding your vocal, but I did the best I could, which is of little use, it seems. Today, we're going to watch another video done by Jenny Fetzer, and I really appreciate Jenny taking the time to give us insight into each of these personality types. She draws from not only her education, but her experience in her counseling practice with Anchor Counseling. And I really do appreciate how she puts such a positive spin on all the wonderful attributes that each personality holds. We'll take a look in a moment at the other side of it in the life of Saul, but I really do appreciate Jenny lifting up the type 4 personality, the individualist, or also called the romantic, to show how much they bring to our life in terms of beauty. And so thank you, Jenny, for taking the time for sharing this with us today.
Good morning, church family. We have the privilege today to talk about type 4. And it should be maybe a unique Sunday, an interesting Sunday, because this type is one of the most unique types in the Enneagram. So if you are lucky enough to have a type 4 in your life, you'll know it as soon as I start talking about it, and Pastor Larry talks about it in his sermon. But they are some of the coolest people in my life, and I'm so grateful for my relationships with type 4s. So type 4s can be known as the romantic or the individualist. They are the people that have a very wide emotional range. So for those of us who have some difficulty and maybe have some blunted emotional range, they're the ones that kind of bring it out of us, which is so helpful in so many aspects. They are deeply creative at their core. They are emotionally honest when they're in health, and the creativity is sometimes balanced with an intensity, but not always a negative intensity. Sometimes it is just one of those intense situations there where you go out to eat with a type 4 and you just feel like you've just had a therapy session. They are typically actors or artists, poets, chefs, musicians, just all of the different things in life that just give us so much beauty. And again, that creative factor. When you think about type 4, it should go right to some of my most creative friends. So in health, these individuals can confront and reframe their shame. So we all experience shame at some level in our lives, but they're able to actually tackle it head on. They're able to recognize love is unconditional, that regardless of what they do, what they achieve, what they don't achieve, they are good just in the idea of being made in the image of God. They are some of the most connected individuals you will find, reaching out to others, finding themselves deep within who they are, and just spending time learning about, again, other people and themselves. They are so attuned to beauty. They pay attention on purpose, which is the idea of mindfulness. And there is an author who talks about the idea of beauty hunting, that within every day there's some level of beauty to be found. And these types just have it in their bones. They're able to sort through, the negative noise of life, or the background noise, to just find the beauty in every day, which is such a wonderful thing we can learn from them. Now, when they're in stress, or when they're struggling with their health, they can also oftentimes be moody or melodramatic. Sometimes they can even be seen as being needy or self-pitying. At their very, very worst, there are times where they can be manipulative or even play the victim. I don't know if you guys have seen that Saturday Night Live sketch of being a Debbie Downer, but she tends to be kind of a type 4 just in that sketch of, woe is me, I'm experiencing the most difficulty, this is the most difficult thing for me. So they tend to err on that side when they're really, really struggling. So the work of the 4, the individualist or the romantic, is to use their creativity essentially to accept themselves. That seems like a very easy thing for the rest of us to say, but at the core of who they are, they have a lot of insecurity surrounding that. So accept themselves for all of the wonderful and difficult parts about them. to trust themselves, to know that they have a strong sense of intuition. And if they would just take time to listen to what their inner self is saying, it's probably a good decision most of the time. And then depend on themselves. So accept themselves, trust themselves, and depend on themselves. The idea that no emotion is final can really help us to almost ride the wave of that emotion, to tolerate it and notice it without letting it overtake us. So I am not a 4, but I love my 4s. I have several very close friends that identify with the type 4, and I'm grateful for their creativity, their work, their very wide range of emotion, because it is so life-giving in so many ways. So some really good resources for type 4s, or for those of you who love type 4s. The best book I have found that really connects with this type is by Brene Brown, and the book is called Braving the Wilderness, and it's all about belonging to ourselves first so that we can eventually belong to others. But really the real work is connecting with ourselves. So type 4s give us all the creativity in the world. We would not have beautiful paintings. So people are saying that, Van Gogh was a type 4. So we would not have the most beautiful paintings that exist, or maybe beautiful music compositions if we didn't have those. And we can learn a whole lot about emotions and expressing those emotions from our type 4s. So if you're a type 4, accept yourself, trust yourself, depend on yourself, no emotion is final, and do that work to really be able to recognize who you are.
Thanks so much, Jenny, for your insight. Appreciate you taking the time to give us insight. And I do want to say this, that if you have friends that might benefit from the insights that Jenny is giving, we upload not only this online service to YouTube, but separately we upload just the video portion from Corey and Jenny as well. So dial into that if you think that will be of any help to you and to other people. So today we want to explore the world of the individualist, or also called the romantic. Now, I wore my Cat Stevens throwback shirt in honor of this personality type because in my reading he is listed among the type 4 personalities. On this album, T for the Tillerman, there's a song that we have used as the title of this series, On the Road to Find Out. We find that the artistic expression of individuals like Cat Stevens or your favorite artist is a way of chronicling for us their journey through life. His spiritual journey was through the lens of music, as well as some of the artwork for the albums he drew himself. Now, do you have a friend who sees the world just a bit differently? Do they express themselves a little bit, at least in your estimation, unusually? At the heart of the individualist, or the romantic personality type, can be summarized in a quote from Vincent van Gogh, who is also a type 4 personality. He said, "Real painters do not paint things as they are. They paint them as they themselves feel them to be." And I think that is true. I think all artists do more than perform. I think what they're doing is expressing what's going on inside their inner world. Now, what's interesting is Don McLean, many years ago, also in 1970, the same year this album came out, he published an album that had a song on it titled Vincent, and it was in honor of Vincent van Gogh. Listen to a couple of the lyrics. "Starry, starry night, paint your palette blue and gray, look out on a summer's day, with eyes that know the darkness in my soul. Shadows on the hill, sketch the trees and the daffodils, catch the breeze and the winter chills in colors on the snowy linen land." Now he's describing the painting Starry, Starry Night. But then he goes into his personal life. He said, "Now I understand what you tried to say to me and how you suffered for your sanity and how you tried to set them free. They would not listen. They did not know how. Perhaps they'll listen now. Starry, starry night, flaming flowers that brightly blaze, swirling clouds and violent haze, reflect in Vincent eyes of china blue, colors changing hue, morning fields of amber grain, weathered faces lined in pain are soothed beneath the artist's loving hand. For they could not love you, but still your love was true, and when no hope was left in sight on that starry, starry night, you took your life as lovers often do. But I could have told you, Vincent, this world was never meant for one as beautiful as you. That song describes the message to what sometimes type 4 personalities struggle with. Sometimes they can wallow, sometimes they can be depressed. You see, the way Van Gogh saw the world changed the way we see it in many respects. His unique take on people and scenes, and even on himself, altered the way we look at things too. Some things you might not have known about Van Gogh is, in addition to being an artistic icon that we know him to be, he was also a pastor's son, interestingly enough. He went to Bible college to become a pastor. And thirdly, he served as a missionary. Van Gogh tried to pass his theology exams multiple times to become a pastor, and each time he failed. He then chose to serve as a missionary to coal miners in Belgium. And he chose to live with them on straw beds in poverty rather than in clergy housing. Those in charge of the ministry saw this as undignified and removed him from his position in such a harsh way that eventually he had to walk 47 miles to Brussels, where he eventually committed himself into an asylum. He was what we might call a tortured artist. He was an individual that felt a lot. He was an individual that could give a lot, and sometimes he was not appreciated. Many people did not capture the magic of how he saw a subject until way after the fact. Now, what does all this have to do with On the Road to Find Out? The Enneagram Type 4 is a romantic, but has a very special need. Remember, we've said in previous weeks that each of these types have a certain need. The Type 1 personality, called the perfectionist, is the need to be perfect. The Type 2 personality, called the helper, is the need to be needed. The Type 3 personality is called the achiever, and the chief characteristic is the need to succeed. And here the Type 4, individualistic, romantic personality type, has the need to be special. The need to be special. Oh, the words of Jesus ring true when he says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." In many respects, what we find is the Enneagram 4 personality can bring a lot of life and energy and uniqueness and joy, but there's also some frustration, and a part of that is grieving as well. The description for the Type 4 Enneagram was given very succinctly to us by Jenny. But I just want to highlight, because I'm giving to you 4 points each week. One is a description, then a dilemma, then a doppelganger, and then a development. The description is these unique qualities can captivate other people, draw other people to them, and sometimes other people will seek them out. Type 4 personalities love sublime language, special moments, and they don't want to miss any opportunities. But their romanticism in heart, looking toward the idealized movies or theaters that come to mind, can also leave a person kind of frustrated as well, because life doesn't work like the movies. Life doesn't always work itself out by the idealized image that we see portrayed to us. So these individuals are highly sensitive. They're almost always artistically gifted, whether it is in dance or music or painting or theater or literature. And the Type 4 personality is ecumenically oriented. They They reject this division between the sacred and the profane. There's beauty to be seen anywhere and everywhere, and they're at home with symbolism as well. Type 4 personalities draw energy from other people as much as they give energy to other people. And this question that kind of lingers in the back of their mind is, what do you think of me? Do you notice me? Did I catch your eye? So, are you a type 4 personality? Well, you might be if you resonate with some of these statements. Listen, I like things that are unconventional, dramatic, and refined. I'm definitely not a fan of the ordinary. I never really felt like I belonged. I have so many feelings in a day, it's hard to know which ones to pay attention to first. In social situations, I tend to hang back and wait for others to approach me. Melancholy is comfortable for me, so it is annoying when people try to cheer me up. I spend a lot of time explaining myself. When people tell me what to do, I tend to do the opposite. I feel there is something lacking in me. I'm either an artist or highly creative. I come up with amazing creative ideas. Lots of people misunderstand me, and it leaves me frustrated. So 4s have this wide emotional range. The life of 4s is primarily shaped by longing, a longing for something, a longing for beauty, a longing for harmony. Dostoevsky once said, "The world will be saved by beauty. Beauty in nature, appreciating the sublime, the perfection of the imperfect, believing in the arts and the magic of creativity and self-expression." Well, that's a description, but here's the dilemma. 4s feel something is missing from their essential makeup. Sometimes type 4s believe they alone have this tragic flaw, so that when they compare themselves to other people, which is quite often, they feel inferior. And they have this desire to regain this ideal of lost love or a perfect state. Concurrently, they can sometimes envy or long for what other people have as well. So they live in this push-pull moment of life many times between the negative and the positive. And there is a tendency for them to wallow a little bit. 4s feel something important is missing, and therefore, as Richard Rohr says in his writings, he says they're ruled by a hidden shame. Interesting. 4s are easy to recognize, though. They have a tendency to wear odd clothes. They tend to stand out. The life of 4s could be described, I guess, as an eternal quest for the Holy Grail. Always longing for the next thing. And when they can't get it, either envy or sometimes jealousy can be brought out. And that brings us to our illustration this morning, our doppelganger. I was really thinking between a few different individuals on this, and it was a real challenge for me to settle on one. We could have gone with Joseph, the son of Jacob in the Old Testament. He's a dreamer, and he shares these dreams with his brothers. His brothers can't handle it, and they sell him into slavery. He still rises above it, and he becomes the savior of his family and ultimately of a nation. But I settled on King Saul. King Saul, his story told in 1 Samuel, has a lot of twists and turns to it. We're told in the text that he stands head and shoulders above everyone else. I mean that literally. He was taller than everyone else. But what we found in our scripture reading this morning, in 1 Samuel chapter 9, verses 20 and 21, he didn't really see himself that way. He saw himself as inferior. He says in 1 Samuel 9, 20 and 21, he says, "But am I not a Benjamite from the smallest tribe of Israel, and is not my clan the least of all the clans of the tribe of Benjamin? Why do you say such a thing to me?" Well, what is it that Samuel told him? You're going to be the next king, Saul. You have been chosen by God to be the next king. Now, Saul didn't have confidence in his own abilities. And what we find taking place in the text is that after Samuel, chapter 10, verse 1, takes a flask of oil and pours it on Saul's head and kisses him and says, has not the Lord anointed you leader over his inheritance, speaking of the nation of Israel, there's some interesting things that take place. So Samuel tells Saul to go out and to meet this group of prophets. This is in chapter 10, down in verse 5 and following. It tells Saul to go out and to meet this group of prophets. And as you approach this town of Gibeah, you will meet a procession of prophets coming down from the high place with lyres and tambourines and flutes and harps being played before them, and they will be prophesying. And the Spirit of the Lord will come upon you in power, and you will prophesy with them, and you will be changed into a different person. God sees your potential, Saul. You are a special individual. You not only stand head and shoulders above other individuals in terms of height, but you have within you, Saul, the creativity and the wisdom and the gift set to be able to lead an entire nation. And while Samuel believed that, while God believed that, and while even this procession of prophets believed that, Saul just couldn't believe that. Indeed, the Spirit of the Lord did come upon Saul, chapter 10 tells us, and what we find is that when it comes time for his coronation, when it comes time for him to be sworn in, if you will, as king, he is hiding among some baggage. In chapter 10, this is interesting in verse 20. When Samuel brought all the tribes of Israel near, the tribe of Benjamin was chosen. And then he brought forward the tribe of Benjamin clan by clan, and Matri's clan was chosen. Finally, Saul, the son of Kish, was chosen. But when they looked for him, he was not to be found. So they inquired further of the Lord, has the man come here yet? And the Lord said, yes, he's hidden himself among the baggage. Not the confidence you would need in a leader, I guess. But what we find taking place is he struggles within himself, has trouble seeing himself as other people saw him. He is hiding himself among the supplies because it's his way of saying, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Saul is different than everyone else. He has all these gifts, but the thing about Saul is this: because he didn't believe in himself, and because he has this tendency of melancholy, which is a tendency of type 4, he goes into a deep depression. And as he goes into a deep depression, King David, or he will become King David, steps onto the scene, and he becomes the individual that's going to soothe Saul with his music. That lasts for a while, but eventually Saul becomes jealous of David because the people rally around David eventually after he kills Goliath, and people begin to sing the praise of David rather than Saul. And so Saul becomes jealous and envious of the attention that has been given to David, and he begins to pursue David. And David is on the being chased by Saul and is on the run, and what we find taking place is that he has to hide himself in the caves. And many of the Psalms that we appreciate in our Bible are written out of that context by King David. Now, what's interesting to me is this: is Saul's kingship takes a turn for the worst. We're told that he was to wait in a battle against the Philistines for Samuel to show up, not to do anything, just to wait for the arrival of Samuel. And it says in chapter 13 of 1 Samuel, Saul remained at Gilgal, and all the troops with him were quaking with fear. They saw the Philistines. They saw what an imposing threat they were. He waited 7 days, the time set by Samuel, but Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and Saul's men began to scatter. So he said, "Bring me the burnt offering and the fellowship offerings." And Saul offered up the burnt offering, and just as he finished making the offering, Samuel arrives, and Saul went out to greet him. And Samuel says, "What have you done? All I told you to do, Saul, was wait. Just wait, just wait." And when Samuel came, he would provide the offering, and God would provide his assistance in the battle. When you jump down to verse 13, Samuel says to Saul, "You acted foolishly. You have not kept the command of the Lord your God. He would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time." That's what God wanted to do. "But now your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and appointed him the leader of his people, because you have not kept the Lord's command." Now, the kingdom will be torn away from Saul because he operated on his own. You know, fours have a tendency sometimes not to kind of follow the lead of other people or the instructions of other people. Fours sometimes ask the question, why? So maybe Saul in this situation was, why can't I make the offering? Why not? Why not me? Why Samuel? Why is he the only one that's allowed to provide an offering? Envy eventually cost Saul his kingdom. And what we're told in chapter 16, that eventually the Spirit of God departs from Saul, and what we find is that he is just kind of tormented within himself. I find it interesting that sometimes people that have type 4 personalities can get into such deep depression that they become actually self-abusive to the point maybe even of taking their own life. I think of individuals, I don't know if this is the case, I don't know if Robin Williams was a type 4 personality, but he had to have some 4 in him, and we saw his brilliance as a comedian and as an actor, but he didn't see it in himself. He struggled within himself. And so all I'm saying is that 4s have all this potential, but there is some peril as well. You see, Saul cut himself off from all that was beautiful, depriving himself of hope, being driven by nothing other than envy for David. And that envy fueled his own insecurity and shame and self-doubt, and it ultimately led to his demise. So I want to say this to type 4 personalities: always find the beauty in each and every situation. Your life does not have to be a Shakespearean tragedy. It doesn't have to be that. It really doesn't. Let us help you as well. Focus on what is true joy and beauty in your ordinary, everyday, mundane, even routine life. Now that's really hard. Here we are many months into this pandemic, and if you have a type 4 personality, you feel handcuffed, I'm sure. We all do. But to not be able to go and do and see and be all that we want to be can lead us to a dark place. So that leads us to development. How do we mature? You know, 4s have all this originality and creativity and so forth. But 4s must find their energy for life without constantly slipping from one extreme to the other extreme, without being up one minute and down the next. Try to find beauty in all of life. Try to find beauty in all the moments that are given to us. My mantra is this: life is a gift and love is the point. And what we find is that in every moment we have the opportunity for redemption. 4s need to find that comfort, and Jesus offers it. Remember I said the Beatitudes give to us something that corresponds to the personality types? How about this one? Matthew 5:4, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." They shall be comforted. Where will they find that comfort? In the Lord first and foremost, but in each other as well. You see, without 4s, the world would be deprived of the greater part of its art and its music and its poetry. And what we find is that people that have that ability need other people sometimes to help them find joy in the ordinary. Not every four has to be a Robin Williams or an Amy Winehouse. It is one of those things where we find confidence in what God proclaims upon us. And God says that we're His children. And God has joy over us. You know, fours can serve humanity with the energy and creativity that they have. You might think your life is all about something else. In the case of Saul, it started out, and I didn't read this passage, but he thought that his whole goal before he was made king was to find some lost donkeys for his father Kish. No, he had much bigger calling than that. Yet, you might think your life is all about finding the donkeys. But in the end, there is something greater, and that something greater is this confidence that other people see in you, find it in yourself. So here's the final question I want to ask this morning before we listen to our song from Sleeping at Last today. Where is your confidence? Where is your confidence? Is it in God? Is it in other people? But most importantly, is it in yourself? Remember this, the Spirit of the Lord initially came upon Saul in power, and he was a different person, the text tells us. Let the Spirit of God fill you. Let's listen to this song by Sleeping at Last, type for the individualist or romantic.
I'm turning out the lights to remember how to see, till a renaissance takes place and resuscitates the color of paint and divinity. As if God hid the building blocks of every beautiful thing in this game of hide and seek. I can't help but think that ordinary has swallowed the key. Bodies fashioned out of dirt and dust. For a moment we get to be glorious. Ice sculptures adorned in light, sand castles built tall in between the tides. And maybe I'm hiding behind metaphor. Maybe my heart needs to break to be sure. One day I'll wear it on my sleeve, the insignificant with the sacred unique. But I've fallen in love with a ghost. I lost my balance when I needed it most. And this blurry photograph is proof. Oh, I'm not sure, but it feels like truth. I'm stuck swimming in shadows down here. It's been forever since I came up for air. Flashlight in hand, determined from authenticity. Only poetry try to describe. Bodies fashioned out of dirt and dust. For a moment we get to be glorious. Get to be glorious. Get to be glorious. What if we already are who we've been dying to become? In certain light, I can plainly see a reflection of magnificence hidden in you, maybe even in me.
Well, we were talking about this song, Corey and I, while you were watching it, and we were talking about how Sleeping at Last has really taken all of these Enneagram types and really done a deep dive with them. And every line in these songs is very, very significant. And I hope you'll take time to read them in the liturgy that I send to you, because you can ponder it and meditate upon it. And I just bet, when the song that reflects your Enneagram type is sung, we haven't seen all of them yet, but what I feel is you'll resonate with it. You'll kind of go, that's it. That's me. That's what I'm feeling. So we close off today with this thought. Being creative and being a creator, that's part of what being a type 4 is the ultimate testament to the great creator God, to his creativity and to his grace. And so may God be with you, and may his grace be upon you. May he lift up his countenance upon you, and may he give you his peace. God bless you, everyone. We'll see you online next week. Have a good week.